Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
Let's do this thing.
It's just two guys talking sports, and we actually pay them to do it.
You volunteered, didn't you? We're paying you, aren't we?
The first of the duo is an opinionated local sports editor who has made a name for himself thanks to his beard.
That's a serious beard you got going on. I mean, you're heading toward Doug Dynasty, but well-groomed. That's a good look. If I ever did that, that's the look I would go for.
The other guy is a guy who takes no prisoners when it comes to sports.
Let's stomp these dudes.
Together, they bring you the best in Oklahoma State sports talk and opinions on sports from around the country.
That's right. Listen up. Hey, listen up. You.
It's Jason Elmquist.
Today, I'm a mild-mannered reporter for the newspaper.
And Patrick Wheeler.
I'm a very dangerous man.
This is the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
That's what I'm talking about. Sport.
You ain't never heard nothing like this. Let me work. Show me where the mic is. I'm on stage, black shirt and my Timbs. You know how I do it. I ain't playing with you. I've been grinding. Anybody trying to sleep on me, better do something with your eyelids. I hear a lot of whining.
Welcome into the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist here with you on a Tuesday. So we continue to roll along here, and the topic of the day was and continues to be all about the Eddie film that aired last night on ESPN, the premiere for a lot of people getting a chance to see it for the first time. And we will dive into it later on even more, but you won't believe it. I find the director, Chris Hunt, outside. I walk out to move my car. I hear Patrick Wheeler across the street. Look over, hey, it's Chris, and I'm like, dude, you got to come on here for a little bit, and this is about as perfect as we could imagine here for Jason and I, because people don't want to hear us necessarily break it all down. I mean, we can hear from the words of the guy that was behind it all, as Chris is joining us now. First, Chris, I got to tell you, man, I sitting there watching it all the way through. That's one of those, and I was told before, that's one of those documentaries that you're gonna be feeling. You even said a lot of different emotions, man. It's a roller coaster, but I got to say, for me, I think I speak for a lot of people, expertly done from top to bottom. Your whole crew did a fantastic job.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Patrick. I really, really, really appreciate it. It was quite a night, and the response out there, we saw everything, and it meant, it really touched us. It meant a lot.
What was the response from, I guess, specific regions with everything? We're talking about Kentucky, Arkansas. We can go down the list. Creighton, everywhere that Coach Sutton coached, and obviously Oklahoma State and everywhere else. But what was that response from everybody that kind of got a chance there, to which you guys did so well, to see a part of their school?
Yeah, man. So that was part of the story, that whenever we first, embarked on doing this movie, I didn't know how certain fan bases would view the film. And I mean, obviously, number one on that list was the University of Kentucky, and how our portrayal would be recognized, if you will. And I'm going to be honest, I just kind of from the stuff that I've seen, the stuff that's been kind of floating out there a little bit, it's been very, very well received. And I think one of the things that has been praised about the movie, if you want to say that, was its honesty, and just its, not having any fear to attack, like, some of the issues that we all wondered about. We all wondered about it with Coach, and in getting that inside story. And so, with everyone being so honest, with me, it made it possible. And, I just got a text from Roger Harden, who's one of Eddie's point guards over at UK, and I mean, he's just so thankful for the film, and obviously as a filmmaker, that just makes you so happy. Yeah.
What did it mean for you to see some of the Sutton family, obviously, as well as, even the big names that were a part of this. I mean, massive names that you guys got that knew Eddie very well. But what did it mean for you to finally see them all in one spot, centralized, for everybody else to kind of get a view and say, wow, we're actually getting a chance to look a lot deeper than a lot of us ever thought we would regarding this topic, kind of like you just said. I mean, the emotion was raw from the beginning to the end.
Yeah. Well, I mean, being able to have all these guys in the movie and be able to articulate what they went through with Coach and the effect that Coach had on their lives, and putting it all together to tell his story, what was a thrill, and to be able to share that experience with the fans out there, to be able to watch it on ESPN. One of the biggest platforms for sport documentaries in the world, was a thrill that I'll never forget it. I got to sit there and share it with my dad, and I mean, can't really ask for much more than that.
That's pretty incredible right there. It's just kind of like Dick Vitale put it perfectly, in his quote there, even perfect son or perfect father and son type movie here, not just basketball, but it is. I mean, the passion and the emotion, as well as just the ultimate connection that is formed between Sean and Eddie before it's all said and done. I mean, we know that there was ups and downs, and that was shown pretty clearly, and we all knew that.
Yeah.
But the way I think that Sean came across to a lot of people maybe opened their eyes to just how much he, in particular, really endured during all of this. I mean, a lot of responsibilities, and maybe even unfair at times, fell on his shoulders.
I agree. Sean carried a lot through his life, and I feel like that this movie, obviously it was about Coach and Coach Sutton and everything that he did in his life, but I mean, Sean was a huge part of this movie, as you saw, and just absolutely a joy to work with him. I mean, I think I've told you, I consider Sean a very, very dear friend now going through this. I mean, you don't do something like this and not form a connection. It's just impossible.
Yeah, there was a bunch of people that have told me before, including, I know Tom has been on our show a bunch and talked about it and said, look, you're going to see a lot of emotion from him, but you're also going to see a side of some people that you may never see in another type of documentary regarding. That's what makes documentaries so good when they're done the right way, is you get that unfiltered sense from some people, which is what you got. I mean, you were able to capture a lot of people that were maybe in different situations and say, I'm not going to talk about this, or I don't want to talk about this. And I'm sure you have tons of footage too that's just sitting there, that didn't make air, because I know editing and all that is a huge process. But what did you think when you were doing this and getting all the interviews, particularly from Rex, from Sean, all those guys that were able to open up, and really it was like a no holds barred type situation? I'm sure you came in and told them, look, tell us what you're comfortable with,
right? But
they might have even exceeded those expectations a little bit.
Well, the first time we sat and talked with Sean, in several of the clips made the movie. It was an interview that, honestly, Patrick, I wasn't even going to bring my camera to record. It was more of a pre-interview. Wow, it was it was our first time to sit down and really talk to each other. And I was just going to bring, just an audio recording just to be able to take notes and things like that.
Sure.
Just hang out. And I was like, you know what, let's just bring the camera. Can't, whatever. I mean, we barely lit the thing. And it was some of the most powerful footage in the whole film, because, and you'd have to ask Sean, but for whatever reason, I think Sean was he was ready to say some of this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
He had been holding it in, and I'm just thankful he trusted me enough with it, because he really did open up. It was frankly a bit like a therapy session.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, what's up?
Oh, I was going to say what I'm hopeful for, because when I got to Oklahoma State about 10 years ago, all I heard was a lot of negativity from the fan base on Sean and what he did as the head coach and stuff like that. And my hope is those who have loved Eddie and watched that last night understand the demons that Sean was also going through. I think that's the biggest thing I got out of last night is, we already kind of knew the history of Eddie, but we didn't know just what the demons that Sean had been dealing with as well.
I mean, it was eye-opening to me too, because I'll be honest, I was maybe fitting to the category that you're talking about before I started this journey, and so it was absolutely eye-opening. I will just tell everyone out there, Sean's a heck of a dude, and he went through, as you can see, he's been through a lot. But he's also overcome so much too, and I'm so proud of him for it. I'm so happy where he's at now in his life. I mean, I don't really care for Texas Tech all that much, but whatever. But I'm so happy that he's found a home there, and he's working with a great coach in Chris Beard. I know he has a lot of admiration for him. I think the more I talk to Sean, even now, I feel like the more just at peace he is. I think he's doing well, and but it was crummy the way it went down here, and but man, people just we have all of our trials, and he had his, but thankfully he was able to get through it. I'm really proud of him for that.
I think you guys put together one of the more obviously emotional parts of the whole documentary is how Eddie was dealing with the plane crash. And what kind of struck me was it wasn't a police officer that went and told all these families what happened. It was Eddie Sutton.
Yeah.
It was the basketball coach, man. I mean, that doesn't happen, I would think, in situations necessarily. It's not expected, I would say, probably of someone like that. But he stepped up and said it's the hardest thing he ever did. What did you think about how all that came together? I think it was obviously a tragedy, but man, there were some positive notes that came out from it, just from the strength it showed for Eddie Sutton.
So for me, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but for me, whenever we were talking about the Naismith Hall of Fame and his kind of being snubbed for that for so many years, I always thought, just again, outsider looking in, that his handling of the plane crash in and of itself was Hall of Fame worthy. That's how I always kind of viewed that event, the way he handled that. I'm not even talking about the on-the-court stuff. The on-the-court stuff also speaks for itself, but the way he handled that situation, I thought was total class. And I think Tom Dirato says it really well in the film about, having to make those phone calls, him and Andre both, the burden he was had on his shoulders, and then making those phone calls and just getting the Oklahoma State family through that, I thought was just Hall of Fame worthy, and so that portion of the film obviously was very, very important to me, and so I was really nervous about it because I knew this potentially had was going to be a legacy film. And so I wanted to make sure that all the emotions of that accident were portrayed correctly, because I know that's what film is. It's going to live on now for a long time.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the director Chris Hunt joining us with the film Eddie here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, I truly believe one of the greatest gifts anybody can give anyone is what you just did, a documentary of someone's life that shows the good and the bad. And why? Because it's also not just there forever, but it shows everything. There are people that, when they eventually pass, that they're forgotten. I mean, it's impossible to do, first of all, with Eddie Sutton, but when you have it in film and it's there for people to view always, it's always going to be there. if Eddie were still were alive today, and what do you think he would come and tell you once he saw this thing?
Oh man, that's a great question. We did get to screen it for him.
Right.
Yeah.
Was he able to respond to it?
Yeah.
Okay,
he
great.
did.
Oh, so what was his initial response?
So he saw the movie. Now, obviously, it wasn't completely done. Like it was actually it was longer than what we saw last night. We had to kind of get in there and tighten some things up. But anyway, he saw the movie. We everyone in Tulsa will know we rented out the Circle Cinema in Tulsa, and Eddie lives in Tulsa, or he lived in Tulsa. And so we just had a little private screening in there with just the film crew, and then Eddie, and then Sean, Scott, Steve, and their families. Awesome. So it was very intimate, only like 12 people there, whatever it was. And so anyway, Eddie sat in his wheelchair in the back, and he got to watch the film. I think Scott, I don't know if you talked to Scott, but he'll tell you about this. It's good stuff. Okay. And anyway, so we had that experience with their family. I mean, you talk about nervous, dude. I was like, I got popcorn, and I couldn't even eat it.
Yeah. Hey, that describes it perfectly right there, man.
I couldn't even eat it. But it was cool. Like, the most fun part of the movie with Eddie there was whenever Patsy comes up on screen as a college co-ed.
Wow,
and, I turn around. He's sitting behind me. I turn around, and his eyes are, like, the size of softballs. And it was just, like, he started kind of making some noises, like, awesome. Like, it was pretty cool. And so the film, we do the film, and I think he really, Sean will tell you too, I think he really appreciated it. I mean, he had a little tear in his eye, and he he couldn't really talk much. Right. So that was a bummer. But we got to hug and just like have that like moment, where, words really weren't needed. And so I think, and then I had a couple other like really intimate moments just with him, just where it was just me and him, just in his living room. I remember I showed him a few scenes just on my iPhone, and just like, and as we were kind of putting it together, still pretty rough, but good enough where I was like, I want him to see this, and this might be it. Who knows? And so those little moments are something that I'll personally get to have for the rest of my life, and we're pretty special.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, it really is. I
just wanted to kind of chime in here. You talked about, obviously the great thing with film is you don't necessarily need talking or anything like that to really have an impactful moment. And for me, the image that's going to stick with me forever is that throughout that entire movie we see, even during the good and the bad, Eddie Sutton, that light in his eyes, even during the bad. But in 2019, when you're filming him and he finds out he's not in the Hall of Fame, you could almost see that light kind of dim. As you were filming that, how hard was that on you to see kind of that light that you've seen even when he had troubles talking and stuff like that? It just seemed to dim in that one moment, that one image you captured.
Well, thank you. That was the hardest shoot I've ever been on in my career. That was, I'll be honest, we went there. I was like 80% sure he was going to get into the Naismith Hall of Fame in 2019. And for the life of me, I don't know why it didn't happen, but it didn't. And there was a lot of, if you recall, guys, there was a lot of like positive momentum leading into 2019. I mean, like Fran was on ESPN like every night, basically just like leading the campaign. There'd been a lot of talk, a lot of articles written. I think Bill Haston over at the Tulsa World, he wrote an article that was made just like complete and total sense to me. Just basically like, if he doesn't get in now, it's just like straight up mean. And I was like, yeah, he's right. And then, just talking with Steve and Eddie's son, Steve, about it, we just all felt really good about it. And so we were excited to be over there. We get over there. Of course, you go over there, there's a possibility it doesn't happen. But we were just feeling really good, and we really thought Steve was going to get the phone call. That's what we had been led to believe. And then Scott was like, his phone rings. He's like, I don't recognize this phone number. He's like, I guess I'm going to take it. And so our cameras, thankfully, immediately kind of pan over to Scott. And you can see it like right there. Like Scott's face said it all. And then they're talking. And then you saw it last night. And so I was locked in on Eddie. Dave, the director of photography, I think was maybe locked in on Scott getting the phone call. And that was brutal. I didn't know when to say cut. And, you're like about ready to cry, like your eyes in the eyepiece of the camera. And you're like, I don't know what to say. You just kind of let it roll. And then it just kind of, you saw it on screen last night.
Christopher Hunt joining us here, director of the film Eddie, which aired last night, premiered for everyone on ESPN. Do you have time to stick around with us for a little bit longer?
Yeah, man. I'm just hanging out now.
Awesome. We're going to take a break so we have more time to discuss. We have the straight from the director here, everything that anybody could want to know. If you have questions, feel free to call in and we'll get those answered. We'll be right back with Christopher Hunt here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
It's been a too long time with no peace of mind. I'm ready for the times to get better. I've got to tell you, I've been racking my brain, hoping to find a way out. I've had enough of this continual rain. Changes are coming, no doubt. It's been a too long time with no peace of mind, and I'm ready for the times to get better.
Welcome back to the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Here on Tuesday, Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you here, and Chris Hunt is hanging out with us, director of the film Eddie, that has been all the buzz. I asked you there over the break, and maybe just describe it for the listeners too, is that sense of, I guess relief is one way to put it, but also just knowing that, wow, we finally got this film where we want to go, or at least a start where we want it to go. You talk about being somewhere where it's going to get a lot of eyes, and especially in a sports world sense too. And so what was that feeling to finally see it on a platform like ESPN?
It was amazing. Like I was saying, Larry Reese had like the perfect tweet for it.
Sure, yeah.
Big Monday tweet.
Absolutely.
And to see it up there with the ESPN logo on the bottom right hand corner was awesome. It was just fantastic. And I was so nervous. I was just praying that color bars wouldn't show up, or a test tone or something, and like something was wrong with the file. You like nightmare.
Those are stuff going through your head, right?
Kind of.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah. So, but no, it was great. It was a great experience. It was awesome to see it up there. I thought it looked great. It sounded great, and man, it was a joy.
As a journalist, I have to ask, how difficult was it to find all of that old film?
Great question. That was maybe the most fun part of this whole project for me. I love history, and I love digging for historical footage, and so we had a lot of help from a lot of people. I'd be remiss to say John Holcomb was a big help with me and finding some really cool Oklahoma State stuff, and the Griffins, who own Channel 6 and Channel 9 in Oklahoma City. They were super supportive of the film, and so John had pulled a few tapes for me, just some kind of nice archival stuff of Eddie, and I went over to Channel 6 in Tulsa and dug through a little bit of that stuff, and then he was kind enough to set me up a little. I brought my computer just over to the station and just kind of set myself up a little workstation over there, And then he's like, hey, we got some more tapes downstairs you might want to just kind of take a look at. So we go downstairs and we go down to the basement of Channel 6, and they have like this huge basement. I mean, it had to have been 10,000 square feet or something. They're at their new spot over there in Tulsa. And they had all these old beta tapes. You remember those? Like little beta, yeah, beta tapes.
Wow.
They're just stacked everywhere. They've got Oklahoma State, Tulsa, OU, like, you know, all the stuff that they'd covered over the years. And so they just basically gave me the key to that, and I was pretty quickly able to kind of figure out how someone in the very far past had logged all their footage, or like at least kind of quasi organized it. And so I just started reading. I mean, of course, everything's analog, and like you just got to read and like plug it in the machine and see what's on it. And then, I mean, that's where I found, I thought, just an iconic shot of Mr. Iba sitting in old Gallagher by himself watching practice. I was like, whenever I saw that, I was just, you know, those are the wins that you have to like really celebrate during the process of making something that takes this long. But like some of that old Iba footage, man, was just like, that was so cool to discover. Because frankly, I mean, I know a lot of OSU fans have seen that, like Eddie press conference and stuff like that. I think even Oklahoma State uses it in maybe a hype video, some of it. But like a lot of that stuff had not been seen in like literally 30 years, 35 years, or whatever it's been. So yeah, thanks for commenting, and that was a lot of fun to go and find.
Christopher Hunt joining us here on the afternoon sports drive. What do you think that this film meant to Oklahoma State fans with everything that's been going on in Oklahoma State? I mean, it was body blow after body blow for the last few weeks with things going on in Oklahoma State sports. But we get a film like this with the platform that it was on, the reviews that it's been getting from everybody, the positive feedback. How important do you think that was just for Oklahoma State fans to have something like that?
Well, I know that they were very patient with us and our team. As we made this movie, we were super naive starting out, thinking we could get a project like this done in a couple of years. And it wasn't all of our fault necessarily, because the story just would never end, surprisingly, as I'm sure people saw on screen. And so I appreciate their patience, first off. And then, yeah, it's been a rough couple of weeks, I guess. So it was very, very satisfying. I mean, rough weeks or no, it was always my goal to bring Oklahoma State fans some joy, to see their school, you know, hopefully on primetime television in a positive way. Yep. And so it was fun to see a few Byron Houston highlights and Big Country highlights and a Desmond Mason dunk back on ESPN. It was fun. And so, yeah, I'm really happy about that.
What did it mean for you to, like, we've kind of talked about, you mentioned Patsy earlier, but just the footage that you were able to even get of her, I mean, some of those little short clips, the pictures, all of that. You know, you may not have been able to get like an actual like quote or audio from her, but that too, I think was, and then you hear Sean, you know, say multiple times like she held it together. You know, she's the reason that we got through a lot of the situations we were put in. So how important was that to your guys' film?
Very. That was like editing with Chad Walker. She was a kind of a tough character to deal with, unfortunately, because she had passed away, you know, and so obviously she would have been probably more in the movie, but again, back to your archival question, you know, just being over at Eddie's house and hanging out with him a little bit, it would just blow your mind what was in that guy's closet.
That's yeah. I mean, it was even mentioned. Yeah, that's I love that because it showed just how much was held on to things that were precious to him.
Those were his grade school yearbooks from Buckland, Kansas.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That really is.
It was awesome.
That is so cool.
I remember last time you guys commented how ESPN kind of told you that how'd you get all these big names like Bill Clinton and Jerry Jones? How open were those guys to being a part of that because of the fact that they definitely had a big role, especially Bill Clinton when he was governor at Arkansas in kind of the elevation of Eddie Sutton.
They were really open to being in the film. In fact, I don't think either of those two particular people ever said no. In fact, I don't know if anyone that appeared in the movie ever initially said no, and then we had to talk them into it. I think everybody was pretty much on board. That said, it was like crazy hard to like just get those interviews in the books. I think we worked on former President Clinton for about 9 months, and we had been working to lead up to his interview, and then like literally like a week before we interviewed him, they were like, hey, he can sit down with you for like 25 minutes in New York City at like on Thursday. Can you do it? And we're like, yes.
You're there.
Yeah, we're like, of course. And then Jerry, this is kind of funny, but I guess totally on brand. He was harder to get a hold of than President Clinton, and he took about a year to get in the seat. I met him first with Eddie at Frank Broyles' memorial service over at Bud Walton Arena in Fayetteville, and we had a chance to meet Jerry Jones there, and he was. Steve Sutton told Jerry what we were up to and what we were doing, and he said, all right, I'm gonna help you out, blah blah blah, and he probably thought we were gonna ask him for a bunch of money, frankly, but no, we ended up getting with his people, and we finally secured his interview about a year later. And I gotta say this too. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you right now, but like you have to understand there. One of our producers, Wendy Garrett, who lives in Tulsa, huge shout out to her because she is really the person that got those things put together for us. I mean, I would give a wish list, if you will, of people I wanted to interview, and then herself and David Tester, my business partner, they would just bust it to try to secure these interviews, and it was no small feat.
Yeah, a production this well done and this successful takes a team or two,
it's
right?
It's a team sport.
Yeah. Talk about like how everyone that was involved and how do you think I guess how was their reaction as well as the team? Did they all think it came off pretty successful?
Yeah, so obviously last night just was overwhelming.
Yeah.
The response was, and I got to say thank you to everyone out there who sent in your very nice wishes. I mean, it really touched us. Anyway, yeah, so I almost like start to cry. I mean, it's like that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chad and Andy they have a. Chad Reineke and Andy McMahon, they have a company called Takashi Entertainment in Oklahoma City who they're part of just this film community that we're trying to kind of prove that these big-time films can be done in Oklahoma. They have a lot of LA experience, which goes a long way. Mm-hmm. And our company in Oklahoma City, 1577, we produced the film, we made the film, but they've really kind of taken it to that next step. The reason it was on ESPN is because of them. Well, it's because the film was good,
right?
And
exactly.
Then, but they had all the connections.
Sure.
And so
those are important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes a huge team to do that. And so I'm just so thankful for those guys and everybody that worked so hard on the movie. Yeah, it was great.
Christopher Hunt joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, director of the film. Eddie, if you want, stick around with us to round out the hour. We got about 15 minutes left. We'll take a break and come back for about 10 minutes or so.
If you want me.
Hey, we will take all the time we can get from you, man. We appreciate you coming on. We'll stick around here and end out the hour with Christopher Hunt at 4 o'clock. Tom Dirato, 4:30. Scott Sutton will be on, and we'll talk more about the film Eddie. Still to come here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
I don't wanna
Welcome back to the afternoon sports drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you, rounding out hour number 1 with Christopher Hunt as well, who has graciously spent his hour here with us, and we appreciate it. I know that you have been, especially over the months leading up to this, years leading up to this, has been probably insanely hectic for you guys. A ton of work, I know, has gone into this film, Eddie, that premiered last night on ESPN. Do want to remind everyone that if you did not manage to get to see it last night, it is available on the ESPN app. You just got to go there and stream it. As Chris said to me before, 3 months, right, is the time it should be available on ESPN, you believe?
That's right.
Okay, so it should be there. It's I tested it out last night. If you have ESPN, you can watch it anytime. Cool. On there, so be sure to do that. If you also, just to rewatch that thing, I know that
did it have commercials whenever you watched it?
Yeah, it did. It still did. Yeah,
okay.
That's the thing, is it does have the ads, but I said that too because Tom came in and said the ads, it was a little different that way because you didn't want to stop, but I was thankful that it was only like one ad at a time. Really, is what it was. So that kind of
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was one ad, and it broke it up really well. You know, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Oklahoma State. Let's it's on here.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, let's go to the phone line there. Sorry, I had to click your button. You're on the afternoon sports drive. Go ahead.
Yes. Hey, I'm glad you brought up the subject of when it's going to air again. Will this be reshown, rebroadcast?
Yeah. So, and Chris can answer this too, but it's going to be on ESPN, available. Like if you have the app, you can literally watch it on your phone, on your computer, on your television as well. But like Chris said, it's available for 3 months on ESPN. You can watch it whenever you want. I do believe you have to have a cable subscription, I think, just to be able to log in and watch it. I think I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that it's on the app available to watch.
And I think they're going to air it on ESPN2 a couple more times. I'm sorry, I just don't know the dates, but we'll absolutely, once I find out when those dates are, we can just throw it out on our social media,
which is the Twitter account and Facebook.
Yeah, it's Eddie Sutton Film. Okay. That's Twitter, so it would be like the little @ and then Eddie Sutton Film.
Okay. Yeah, I know that normally things like this, they're broadcast again 2 or 3 more times at different times. We had our DVR set to record this thing last night, and came in from work and was like, "Hey, the show's on. Let's go watch." Got to, I don't know, turned it on and is like, "Why is this thing not recording?" So, long story short, for unknown reason, it did not record. So we desperately need it to show again so we can get it recorded.
Yeah, it's definitely available at any time on the app, or like Chris said, he'll put out on social media whenever they show those the re-air dates.
Great, sounds great. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's the beauty of where we are now with technology. You can just stream anything, anytime, right? That's cool. That's the plus right there.
For sure.
Christopher Hunt in with us, director of the film, Eddie. I think that the film, obviously, and Robert on his show today kind of put it pretty perfectly too, because I was the same way after I watched it. There, it goes to the credits, and you're just sitting there like, my literal response is wow. Wow. I don't say that after a lot of things, but a lot of shows, a lot of documentaries, a lot of movies make you go, that was a waste of my time. That right there was just a wow moment. You're sitting there looking at the credits, and you're like, I never would have thought, and then that's what I think is so great too for a lot of people, is that they got to see, it wasn't just Sean, it was Rex, it was Dick talking about it, it was Doug Gottlieb going into detail. Tom was fantastic with everything he said.
Absolutely.
And everybody too, when you got down to the final point of everything, it was, we got to realize just how great of a person Eddie was. He was a great, Tom put it perfect, great coach, but an even better person.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Let's go back to the phone line. You're on the afternoon sports drive here with Patrick Wheeler, Jason Elmquist, Christopher Hunt. Go ahead.
Hey guys. Hey, are you guys going to show the whole? You said you had to cut out some parts to make it work for ESPN. Whenever it goes?
No. I'm sorry. They got the entire movie. That was it.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
I didn't know if we missed something.
No.
If there was some spots in there. And
you got the full-on everything. So, hope you enjoyed it.
It was great. It was great. I loved it. Hey, you haven't brought it up, but did you do the Big Country thing for tomorrow night, or is that somebody else?
That is somebody else. That is a I haven't got to see it, so I can't really comment on the film. But I do know that it was directed by a woman who was in Vancouver during the Grizzlies' time up in Vancouver before they came to Memphis, and it's kind of a Vancouver Grizzly. This is my understanding that it's kind of a Vancouver Grizzly perspective.
Yeah, that's correct.
Of finding Big Country. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I always thought about one story that Coach Sutton told Big Country back in the day. You got to go play some summer ball at a big city, and he went to Salisaw to play for basketball. Something like that. I always remember that. That sticks with me forever. Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right.
Man.
Well, yeah, this is a great job. I mean, kudos to you and everybody that helped you with that, because that was awesome. So you guys have a good day.
Much. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for the
I
phone
really
call.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and right there has been, I think, the response. It's just like, it's almost like a thank you. I've seen a lot of people just say thanks. I mean, you guys showcased a coach that deserved it, especially in the way that you guys did it. You didn't cut corners. Every detail was put out there. I think too, we saw, and one of the tougher parts of the whole film, what addiction can do.
Yeah.
Okay. That's been something that a lot of us have maybe had, some people that have personal experience. We know it's a connection to a lot of people because it affects so many people. So when you were putting together that part of the story, I know that had to have been tough. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, how much did you think, wow, this is going to be one of the most relatable parts for a lot of people to see, not only the addiction, but an overcome of it as well?
It was always our goal to tell a story that was a human story with the backdrop of basketball. We knew, obviously, don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that, addiction runs, it's prevalent in our society. We've had epidemics of addiction. Most people don't have to go far outside their immediate family to experience it. I relate to it, and so we knew that had potential, obviously, to touch a lot of people, and also just make Coach Sutton and Sean and some of the other members of the cast just more relatable. A lot of people have that in common, so it was obviously something we wanted to handle with care, but be very honest about. And I think is one of the main things I'm just so grateful for, was the honesty that Sean brought to the table, especially. But I keep saying Sean, but really everyone did to help tell this story.
Well, I think one of the most fascinating ways to look at it is just like he was described in the film, and as Eddie was a superstar. Mm-hmm. Even at that time, he was a superstar. To everybody that he met, and even superstars are humans. That's something we got to remember, and you guys showcase that is we all got our demons, and unfortunately for someone as as in the spotlight as Eddie, it's going to be hard to not keep those hidden sometimes, which is something I think people have to understand, and then they see that there. And also, we kind of talked about the 2019 reaction to not getting in the Hall of Fame, but what about when it actually did happen? Because you guys got some of that footage on there too, and just getting to see Eddie and the opportunity for him to at least be told, hey, look, it finally happened.
Yeah, you want to talk about bittersweet. That was bittersweet.
Sure.
It was funny. Obviously we were all kind of at that point, at the beginning kind of our current pandemic. And we were very much all in kind of isolation. And so I just did not feel comfortable at all going over to his house like we had done the previous year. Mm-hmm. None of our team did feel that way. And so I just talked to Hunter Sutton, Sean's son, one of his sons. And I was like, hey, here's the deal. I know, because Eddie obviously had some family over there, which I thought was awesome. And I was like, hey, will you just please film this? Like, I hate to put this on you, but just break out your phone and film it, and we'll use it. Like, we'll deal with it. We'll either not change the movie, one, if he didn't get in again. It was probably just going to end with 2019, and then we'll do a credit or whatever. Or we're going to use the footage. And I was like, but just do one thing for me. Just take your phone and like turn it sideways so it's like landscape mode. And I was like, we're going to try to fill up the screen here. And of course, and it's so funny. He's like, man, they called really early. I'm so sorry. They called early and they ended up shooting it like, up and down, which, was like a blessing, because then it allowed me to put the whole video kind of on the left-hand side of the screen and then be able to add our graphics and say what happened. And so, like, design-wise, it actually ended up working out. Right. And so that was kind of cool. And so I was just thankful for him. But Hunter was the guy that shot that, and thankfully so.
I think that's, I remember whenever that announcement was made, we finally got word that he was in, and we even talked to you, and you said you were going to have to go do some editing.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And you were able to get it in, and it was just the ending that I think a lot of people were like, wow, that's
the movie's better for it.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
really.
Like so much better.
Imagine I'm glad we don't have to experience it, but the feel if we were sitting there under 2019, it would have been a situation where had he not gotten in 2020, and you had to end it with the 2019 film. You talk about even
how it was.
Yeah, you talk about even more sobering for people to just be like, wow. Because I think this opened the eyes for a ton of people too that were like, they've heard us griping, and have rightfully so, about he got snubbed, and we've been completely brutally honest about that. Well, there's some people that were maybe on the fence about that I think this probably pushed them over, like, wow, can't believe that didn't happen earlier. For sure, man. And I kind of liked, like, just from an artistic standpoint, I liked the fact that they waited too long. Like I said, it was so bittersweet. Mm-hmm. We're sitting there, I'm having to have Hunter Sutton with his cell phone shoot it. Right. That's just not how it should have been. Had they done it years earlier, when he probably should have been in there, not only would he have been able to celebrate it with family and friends, but also former players, former assistant coaches, fans. Like, and also he probably could have given like an acceptance speech, which he was obviously known for that, right?
Exactly.
Like, how great would that have been?
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
And so, like, they waited too long, and I didn't want the film to give. Just frankly, I did not want the film to let the Naismith Hall of Fame off the hook for finally getting him in. Sure. It was at that point, though, he is so much more than just a Naismith Hall of Famer. And we had already said it, and so that was a night. But I was very happy for him, of course, and happy for their entire family. I know how much it meant to them, but at that point, the Naismith Hall of Fame to me was not a big deal. That's Christopher Hunn joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, director of the film Eddie. As we get ready to get into hour number 2, Tom Dirato is going to join us as well. Chris, if Tom makes you stick around, are you going to be okay with that, or do you have to run? Yeah, we could. I feel like I owe Tom. Okay, I just don't know if people are probably tired of hearing. No, I can speak for everybody when I say that this is the topic of the day, and we're getting it here from the director, and then one of the I like to call him a star of the film as well. He already is, anyways, but he got some airtime there. Yeah, the legend Tom Dirato. He'll join us next here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
I'm gonna puke, cause my taxes are due. Do my best, we'll begin with a 1 or a 2. Been a hell of a ride, but I'm thinking it's time to grow.
Metronome.
Man, I'm up to something. Ooh-dee-la-dee-do, thank you all for coming. I hope you like the show, cause it's on a budget.
Welcome back to the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Hour number 2 rolls in, and we keep on rolling on. As Patrick Wheeler's here with you, Jason Elmquist as well joining. Chris Hunt's going to stick around here with us, as I've kind of kidnapped him in the studio here, and I'm kind of forcing him to stick around for a little while. So we have to in a situation like this with the film premiering last night. It was amazing, as everyone has pretty much agreed with that too. Tom Dirato joining us, who made an appearance multiple times there in that film as well. And Tom, before I get to how good you really were. I mean, there's some great statements in that film. I loved the footage of the old Eddie show that you were doing there in one of those houses you talked about, the kids getting up on the swinging around from the roof trying to get a look at Eddie, and that just kind of, I just told Chris before the break how much of a superstar, it was shown that he really was, but wasn't that the truth everywhere he went?
It was a humble superstar. When he came here, I know other coaches have gone out and done that in years that have gone on, but Eddie was the pioneer in that. Because I remember the day he came to my office, he said, "Hey," because we have I think it was a Monday night, I think is when we had the show. What do we want to do the show, the radio show? I said, well, we'll probably, I don't know, we'll go in your office or go, we'll set up Gallagher somewhere. He said, why don't we just start taking it out to some of the houses on campus? And it wasn't just the Greek houses, but we started there, but we ended up in some of the dorms. I don't know the names of the dorms. You probably do, Chris, because you're around here. But why don't we take it out to the kids and see what happens? Fine with me. So I got with Joe Riddle, was our producer engineer, and I don't know if you know Joe.
I don't know Joe.
And we went this first time, and I forget where it was, and it was a Monday night because it was a pledge night. I guess the pledges had to meet, and they were in the houses anyway. And the first one was just a great success, a great atmosphere, a lot of energy. It was like their dad walked through the door.
Yeah.
And he treated them all like he knew them, for a long time. But the funny part about it is, I told Chris, and I think that was part of our 2 hours that we did, but it got so popular that I would get calls from townspeople on a Monday morning and say, where are you going to be? And I say, well, we're going to be at such a house. And they would be there. The townspeople would come to the house, to the sorority or fraternity house, so they could be there. And Eddie was so good. I mean, we had such a great time on those shows.
Yeah.
Because we kind of jabbed each other and give and take a little bit. And we had a great relationship. I mean, he's my dearest friend, so I felt like I could do that. And he felt like he could do it. And we would talk basketball. Sometimes we'd talk anything, and talk about his perms and... I remember one day, I had seen. I've been wanting to ask you this. I mean, when you had the perm there, did you go to the beauty salon and with those big hair dryers and put it over the top of your head, and you and the other ladies sat there? He said it was tough because we had to share the same shawl because nobody else would bring a shawl. We had to read the same book, but I don't want. The perm, I don't know if that was the greatest thing that ever happened to him, but he liked it. But congratulations. Yeah. I mean, I can't, you've heard it from a million people.
Yeah.
I watched it. It was, this is the fourth time I watched it, so I kind of knew what was coming up from one spot to the other. But it was still an emotion.
It was different
for me.
Yeah, it was different, wasn't it? Like last night. I mean, the two of us have been so, tied to it, and, to see it on that platform, knowing that everyone in the entire country was getting a glimpse at him and your story with him, but just like everyone's story from basically Arkansas through Oklahoma State. That was really cool. I mean, you kind of felt it. I mean, it had that kind of like that Big Monday vibe going on.
Well, what about one of the lines that stuck out to me was when they said, Dean Smith is telling you, look, don't go to Arkansas.
Yeah.
You're not going to win.
Right.
And he went over there and basically reinvented a program. I mean,
what he did at all four spots.
Yeah.
I heard from a couple of people that I still know who were students at Creighton when he was there. And I've heard from a bunch of people that I was telling you before we went on that I hadn't heard from in, years. I mean, just years, maybe decades.
Wow.
That watched it and texted me. And they're from around the country, not Oklahoma or Texas, just a long way from here, but watched it. But Eddie had the ability to be hard on people, and not just his players. I mean, he was hard on the staff. He was hard on me, but he expected perfection, and if he didn't get that perfection that day or that hour from you, I mean, he let you know about it. just like he would let the players know about it. But you always knew he was coming from a good-hearted place because he wanted everything to be right. He wanted everything to be right with his program. It's unfortunate the way things went in his life, but go back to Arkansas. I mean, you tell Eddie Sutton you can't do it, and you might as well have just said he's taking it over, because that was a challenge. I mean, he never backed down from a challenge. So whoever told him, if Dean Smith said you can't make it there, don't take the job, that was probably, if there was any doubt in his mind, he was going to take it right then and there and show these people that he could make something of it.
What about the way he described going to Kentucky with the pressure that comes with it? And everyone kind of, backed that up. It's like, yeah, you are expected to win it all. Like, you're not just expected to win, you're expected to go all the way every single year and get it done.
We had these conversations off the air a lot.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Eddie's smart in his way. I mean, he knew what he was getting into.
Yeah, for sure.
It wasn't like he got to that press conference and he looked at the president and said, what are they asking about, sanctions and an investigation? I mean, he knew what he's getting into. And he knew the pressures of a Kentucky. This guy's a veteran coach. But this is just me speaking, not the video. But I always got the impression that the lure of a Kentucky was so great for anybody who could coach it. That was a kind of a utopia. Mm-hmm. That was the top of the mountain. To be the head coach of Kentucky. I mean, what was he, the third?
He was the third.
It was the third? I mean, the third in
well, it went Rupp,
decades.
And then Joe B. Hall, and then Coach Sutton.
So that shows you that, they don't go through coaches very often.
That's
there.
right.
So to get that job, to get that offer, plus, things had deteriorated at Arkansas. Partly because of his drinking problem, but more so because he became more popular than Frank Broyles.
No doubt.
And that didn't sit well with Broyles. I mean, Broyles was the king of the hill for forever, being the football coach and athletic director. But the drinking problem opened the door for that divorce, so to speak, because as an AD, Broyles had to address what he was hearing and had to ask. And I think he made it clear he wanted Eddie to go to rehab and get that done.
Yeah.
So that was going to end anyway. But, if he could do it, he said it. I mean, the biggest mistake he ever made was leaving Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to put that in context, though, because that's drinking notwithstanding. I mean, if that had not taken place at the end, then I agree he could have stayed there forever. But the relationship there in the athletic department was deteriorating to the point where something had to give. And obviously, Eddie decided he was going to leave. And I'm sure Broyles was happy because Broyles came back to be the king of the hill then.
Yeah. Well, and you guys know, I mean, you guys are more sports knowledge-y than me, but it's hard to stay at a school for the period of time that Eddie had been at Arkansas. I mean, he'd been there for 11 years, had huge successes, but I mean, sometimes things just get old or sterile, or you need to change the scenery, And
what kind of receptions did you get at Arkansas when you went over there?
Oh, it was unbelievable. He is loved over there.
Yeah.
He is loved.
Yeah.
Their entire university was just fabulous to work with. Judging by just like kind of messages we get on social media or whatever, there's a whole lot of Razorback fans that are still very, very much Eddie Sutton fans. And I think the neat thing about it is, for me, is there's a cool little like kinship between Oklahoma State and the University of Arkansas now that through Eddie. And I know that on like perhaps maybe like the baseball diamond or whatever, that's a big time rivalry. And I know we played them. I know Oklahoma State played them in football in years gone by, but I think it's a neat and potentially could be a really cool rivalry if they wanted to get it going, and if there was ever maybe a friendly rivalry, I don't know, maybe going out on a limb there with sports, but like if there was ever a friendly rivalry, that one might be one to look into.
Honestly, where would Arkansas basketball be today without Eddie Sutton? I mean, really,
it's a good question. I mean, Nolan came in after Eddie and won a national title.
He did, yeah, but I mean, just like
but Eddie laid all of the groundwork.
That was a football school.
Oh yeah, I mean, and really still is at its heart.
Yeah,
it is, but it isn't because they have. Did you detect this deterioration when you did your research over there that it's probably time for Eddie to move on?
I think so. I think that, talking with a couple of the guys that covered the program hard, and Bob Holt and Nate Allen, I think that those two guys I think they would agree with you on that. I think Darrell Walker certainly would agree with you on that because Darrell was with him towards we talked to the triplets. They were there and they went to the 78 Final Four. Well, Eddie coached another 8 years over there, and Darrell was part of those teams. And I think Darrell would tell you that he felt like it was probably a change was needed. But I mean, Coach Dickey, and I think you guys might have had him on, he could really tell him. He was on staff there, and I mean, in the movie, it was one of my favorite scenes actually, is whenever he is made the decision to go to Kentucky, and his players were asking him if he could go with them. I was so moved by that, and I thought it spoke a lot to Eddie's character, and that wasn't a great time necessarily in his personal life, but yet he still had these guys wanting to fight for him. I was just like, the kind of the conflict there was very, very interesting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the toughest, I think, moments of the film for me, when a lot of people was watching when they talked about the DUI, that situation where Sean was just like, it happened like again. Like really, this came back again. Like and we all know what happened after that with Sean. It's like, how much did that really just push him over the edge? He just couldn't take it anymore at that point. He thought maybe they were past it, right, or at least distanced from it a little bit, maybe.
I can take you kind of behind the scenes on that day. Yeah. He was fine most of the day, and he made a stop by the dressing room before if the practice was over, and he was getting his stuff together, get out to the car. And me and amongst a couple other people could see he was a little unsteady going to the car. And this is kind of something I have to live with. He was never one to be told what to do, when to do it. And had I physically restrained him from getting in the car, they'd been hell to pay. I promise you that he would have got after me pretty good. But myself and a few others said, okay, all right, he's going to get in the car. And I was just ahead of him enough that when I got there, I parked the car, got on the plane. Well, Eddie was the last guy. And in those planes, we had seating arrangements, so to speak, and for funny reasons, but Eddie always sat in the last seat, and I sat in the one right before him. Mainly because that's where the cookies and stuff were, and we could steal a few here and there, chips and what have you.
Yeah.
But it became obvious the longer we sat there that he was not going to get there. So James got in the car with one of the managers, I think, because James had been alerted that he's not steady, and so James, I think, might have been the first guy on the scene, maybe if not the first, second, or third, whatever it was. And we waited on that plane for a good hour, and then came back, and we understood what happened. So we took off. We were playing at A&M. And I remember the conversation I had with Sean that night, because I did the pregame. I used to do the pregame show, record it with Eddie. I said, you're going to have to say something, because this is out, and we can't be just talking about X's and O's when we do the pregame. That's fine, we'll do it. So that's one of the toughest pregames we've done. And Sean was about as forthright as he could be at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
But we knew that nothing good was going to come of this for sure. And obviously it led to his resignation and retirement, I guess, is the proper word.
Yeah.
But it was a tough day. And I can see where Sean would feel that way. And, Sean, I don't know if Chris feels this way. If there was obviously Eddie was the central figure, but if there was a central figure 1A, it would have been Sean.
For
and
sure.
Sean was so open with what he said. But at the end, when he was talking about his own addiction, and Sean will tell you this, one of the ways to recovery from an addiction is every day. I mean, it's not, you can't just go at Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and fall back on Tuesday and Thursday. It's an everyday attention. But one of the things that helps and they encourage in addiction, and what little I know, I'm not coming off as an expert, is to relay stories and to talk about what you went through to kind of give people who are listening an idea of what not to do. If you follow me, So it turned out to be therapeutic to some extent for Sean when he was talking about the addiction, and you used it, and at the time that he said it, he meant it. When he said, I forget where it was in the video, but I swore I would never be like my dad and be controlled by addiction. Well, as it turned out, that was not true. But this is a tremendous, I mean, you could not, if you were just an author and you wanted to write a story about a man and his struggles and triumphs and peaks and valleys, I don't know that you could come up with a better script than this. And you had a lot to work with. I've never asked you this.
Yeah.
And because you're the editor, you edited it, but I'll just use my own experience. As I told Patrick, we sat there for 2.5 hours. It was 2 hours in that Gallagher that day, and I had no idea what you were going to use, if you're going to use any of it. But I suspect everybody that you had on that was similar, how much footage do you have that has never didn't see the final go?
Most of it, I would say that, yeah, we talked for 2 hours or whatever it was. And your total, I mean, you were in the whole movie, obviously, but if you just were only take your parts out of it, it would probably add up to about, 4 minutes.
Probably, yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. And obviously there were bigger characters. Some were bigger than others. I mean, I sat down with Sean 3 times, and each of those interviews went a couple hours at least, maybe 3. And so it's just, recognizing. I actually I did edit it, but I also had an editor as well. His name was Chad Walker, who did just a beautiful movie about Big Bird, Sesame Street. It was a story of Carol Spinney, who played Big Bird for years and years on Sesame Street. He did an amazing job with that movie, and I felt like it had a lot of heart to it, and I knew that this movie needed to have a lot of heart. And although the characters that we were portraying in our films were completely different, as far as you have a sports icon and you have a kids entertainment icon, there was just so much to it, and it blow you away about how much you need to capture to be able to properly tell the story, and to kind of and in some ways help the person out, like, because it's hard to ask them to say something kind of perfectly, just like off the top of their head, and so giving them a few chances to do it, and then taking bits and pieces, and then figuring out how, like one of my favorite edits in the movie, just to get kind of in the weeds a little bit, but you have Jerry Tipton in Kentucky talking about whether or not Eddie could recruit or not, and then you cut to an archival piece of footage and it's saying, and I'm sure you're talking about Rex Chapman, and like, I just love the way it flowed, and to get kind of in some ways lucky, but also just making sure that the person says it in a way that's editable, and then and going from there. But yeah, now couple other guys, we had I had President Clinton for 25 minutes, and basically the same for John Calipari. And fortunately for us, those guys really brought it.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
They were amazing.
Yeah. Well, Chris, really from the editing to the production to the construction and the score, I mean, from everything was just fantastic. So seriously, great job for you and your whole team.
I will pass it along to everyone.
Yeah, do that. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that.
Yeah,
I get a sequel somewhere down the line with all that extra footage that you have.
Yep.
You'd have to take a different tact, obviously.
Yeah,
and it would take away from what you did here. So.
Yeah, probably. I think we're gonna move on to the next one, but and I don't know what that is quite yet, but hopefully it'll be exciting and something that everyone out there will be interested in. And I mean, I just have to say that I'm just so thankful for all the support that we've gotten in Stillwater, and of course all the Oklahoma State fans out there. Honestly, you guys gave us so much, I don't know, inspiration and just positive energy and just kind of that support that we needed, because this was kind of like Eddie's career. I mean, there was a lot of ups and downs in this filmmaking process, to the point where a lot of times you're like, is this actually going to happen? I mean, I know me and you talked, Tom, like, when's this going to be out? When's this going to be out? And I'm like, man, I would love to tell you. I don't know. And you just, the emotional roller coaster that is on people is a lot. But I mean, I just want everyone to know how much we really appreciated all the support, and I really do hope you enjoyed the movie and, watch it again.
Congratulations. It was a great effort.
Thank you, Tom.
I think Jason has something he wanted to say.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm glad Patrick mentioned the score, because I got to say the whatever music it was you had for the Missouri game after the plane crash,
was amazing.
That soundtrack right there really hit hard when you're watching that that little segment.
So I'll be very quick. The gentleman that scored the movie, so all the music was original, originally composed for the film. His name is Aaron Newberry. He is from Oklahoma City. We share an office, and I'm so happy that you found the music satisfying. We worked tremendously hard on that, and it's really awesome that you mentioned that particular piece, because it was just known as the Missouri game forever and ever in our editing studio, and trying to get that music where we wanted. It was a huge breakthrough for us, and for me personally, to realize that I really wanted to go with more of an orchestral sound for this film and really rely on string instruments. And again, I'm sorry if I'm getting into the weeds, but that particular song, I agree with you. Absolutely love it. It's very emotional for me. And we were talking, I mean, the Missouri game was just such a special game. It deserved that. And then you layer on, of course, Tom, but also Bob Berry Sr.'s voice on top of it.
Yeah.
If you're old enough to remember him, I know that's going to mean a lot to a lot of people. So it was really cool to put that. Frustrating at times, but cool to put it together.
Yeah, very fantastic, and really we'll go back and watch it plenty of times. Chris, thanks so much for joining us today, man.
Thank you.
All right, when we come back, Scott Sutton's on the phone. That's next. The afternoon sports drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Tom Dirato with you. We just had a great time there with Chris Hunt. I got him to stay a lot longer than I thought I would get to. So that was awesome. He gave us such a unique perspective. Where else, are you going to get something like that instead of the director of the entire film? I mean, that was awesome. Now we're going to get another great perspective.
Yeah. And of course, Scott Sutton joining us. I say a long-time friend, but that would mean that he was old and older than he really is. But he's got more gray hair now than he used to know when I saw him. That's for sure.
You still have more though.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're older though.
But I'll tell you this: it's still there. So we'll see.
That's right.
We'll see how long yours lasts. Hey. you got a chance, and you told me you'd only seen the thing once, the video once, right? The film.
Yeah, we saw it.
So last night watching it, what were you thinking when you saw it?
I just told Chris, I thought it was, I enjoyed it more the second time. I don't know if the first time I think everybody was just kind of nervous. As I say, everyone, Sean and Steve, myself, our families, because we really didn't know what to expect, and we knew it was going to be difficult at times to watch, and especially because Dad was with us at that time, and he was watching it, and so last night I enjoyed it more. I was still kind of nervous, just hoping that everybody would receive it and like it as much as we did, because I thought Chris, and I've said this numerous times with interviews or social media, I thought Chris and his crew did an unbelievable job putting that together and worked their tails off, and just so happy for them. Happy everybody got to see it, but really thrilled that Chris and them got that platform, and hopefully this will continue to build and it'll get bought by somebody and put out there for forever.
I made mention, Scott, this morning, and this is a long journey, and you guys, when given the idea initially, you said, yeah, this is great. Let's go for it. Let's say everything that you want to say. Don't pull any punches. But at any time during this 4-year journey, one of you, either Stephen, yourself, Sean, even Eddie for that matter, could have voiced the disapproval. Let's not go here. I mean, let's just kind of go around this one and go to the next thing. But you guys never did that. Were you tempted when it became awkward to wish that, oh man, I wish they hadn't brought that up?
No, I don't think so. Because I think it's a story that needs to be told. And Sean's the one who you probably worried more about because of and Sean was right. I mean, and you were around my dad as much as anybody there in Stillwater and really around Oklahoma State, and he was such a wonderful man, but he had flaws, and when he drank, a lot of times he wasn't like most people. They're not themselves, and the people that took the brunt of it was my mom and Sean. And when Sean agreed to do this and open up, it was easy for Steve and I. And I'm not sure what Chris said on the show, but I think when they first started this, I'm not sure that was the direction they were going to go until they got into interviewing Sean and got into their relationship. And I thought Sean made the film. I really did. I was so proud of him. Sean's my big brother by about 20 months, and I've always been proud of him, but never more proud of him than what he showed and how courageous he was to be able to open up in front of national TV and talk about how hurt his idol, or how his idol hurt him, and then talk about his own problems.
As a member of the family and certainly close to everybody, it's not only hard on the individual, and certainly I agree with you wholeheartedly about Sean, but, you and Steve got a chance to see it and hear it in a roundabout way, and maybe you weren't the direct result of Eddie getting after you, but how did that affect you growing up?
Well, I think he would certainly, and lash is not the right word, but he would say things to Steve and I as well. I just think Sean because Sean you think about it, Sean played 4 years for him, and then he worked for him for 15 and a half, 16 years.
Right.
And, 90, and I think Sean has said this, 95% of the time he was terrific, but there was a small percentage of time that when he was drinking that he wasn't, and he said some very hurtful things. Were we present when he said a lot of things to Sean? We were there for some, but I'm sure there was a ton of others because of, especially after Sean started working for him that, we were off, or I was off at ORU, and Steve was off working. So there was a lot of stuff that we didn't hear. But it just makes me even more proud of Sean, and I hope it explains some things to some people that, Sean, he had a lot thrown at him with the Kentucky situation, their fans, what happened with the program, the plane crash, following my dad, and then obviously his own personal problems. And for him to come out of it, just like my dad, says a lot. Got knocked down, they got back up and keep going, and that's what those two have done. Yeah,
I had made mention to somebody on another radio station today that, Chris, I'm not putting words in Chris's mouth, but he almost could come back and do something like this with Sean as the main figure, because there was many ups and downs and peaks and valleys that Sean went through. But it'd be easy just to take that away from this and maybe concentrate on some of the negative. But I thought the overall production pointed out just what kind of a good person your dad was. Well, I think if you saw how his players talked about him and how they felt about him, and how much they loved him, and I think, and again, he was an unbelievable father. He'd make some mistakes, yes. He had some times, but who doesn't? I mean, what family is perfect? What family doesn't have problems? And what he taught us, and my mom was a huge part of it, helping him get through that, helping us get through it. But toward the end of his life, and when Sean and Steve and myself started having families, he was an incredible grandfather. Mm-hmm. He loved his grandchildren so much, and they were a big part of his life, obviously. And so I hope that came through last night. I hope it wasn't just about his addiction and some of the things that happened, that I hope people realize. And I think people in Stillwater and Oklahoma realize what type of person he is, because a lot of them have had a chance to be around him and understand that. But hopefully the nation understood that as well, that he was a flawed man, but he was a hell of a basketball coach, and he was a hell of a man. Hang with us, Scott, just for a little bit. We've got to step aside and do some business, and if you'll do that when we come back, we can kind of continue the conversation, if you would, okay? Absolutely. All right, buddy. Thanks. We are back on the Afternoon Sports Drive, and Scott Sutton, our guest, and we're obviously talking about the film Eddie that premiered, so to speak, on ESPN last night, and how apropos, Scott, that last spot would be about the jukebox, since you're one of my greatest. You critique my effort a lot. You play something bad. I'm gonna let you know. I know you do. I mean, you're not shy about that. But like you said, we've got a good relationship, because when I think you made a bad call and didn't do the right thing on the bench, I let you know too. So we got but we still talking to each other. Hey. What kind of response have you gotten, I guess in the form of texts and tweets, from around the country, from people who saw it for the first time? Just outpouring of amazed, amazing film, incredible, so well done, and everything has been pretty amazing how people have reached out, and same with social media, and probably no one wants to be in the times that we're in right now with no sports or no live sports, but it probably was one of the reasons that got on that. There was a reason it got on that time slot, and probably a lot more people watched it. But everybody that I've heard from just thought it was terrific, and that. So well done. I mean, so professional, and to be able to go around and get interviews from so many different people. I mean, talk about President Clinton and Jerry Jones, Dick Vitale, Coach Self, Coach Calipari. So, and then track down, and even you. You even didn't screw up the film, TD. You did a pretty good job. You know what? I just talked, and it was up to Chris to make it look good, and he did. So I put it in his hands. But no, I try not to.
Chris made everybody. I mean, it was so well done. And I told you that first time after I watched it before you had seen it, and I was like, man, I was blown away by how good it was.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able to watch it a few times after that before last night. So yeah, I think everybody that I've talked to thought it was just a wonderful couple hours.
Other than your dad being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and that's basically the last shot in the film, what was the biggest takeaway that you had out of this thing, either on a personal level or on any level? What did you take away, think about the most?
Oh, probably how complex Sean and his relationship was. I mean, I think we knew that, but like I said, especially after when he played for him, I was in high school, and Sean obviously was staying where the players stayed there at Kentucky, and he was extremely busy, and I was extremely busy, and then obviously the 2 years at Oklahoma State, things were terrific between them. I thought. I mean, I think they were, and then by the time he started working for him, I'd gone on. Well, a couple of years after I started working for him, I'd gone on to ORU. So, like I said earlier, we knew some of that had happened, but to the extent of how much it hurt Sean, I don't think anybody understood that. Maybe when Sean talked about it when he went to rehab and got to sit down and face my dad and tell him everything that was on his heart. And but I thought it was. I'll take away from this that I think it showed the type of person my dad was and that Sean was, and that if families truly love each other and support each other, they can get through anything. And life's not easy. I mean, people are going to have problems, and people are having a lot of problems right now. And this was a different type of problem, but and my mom was a big reason we were able to stay together as a family, and I give her a lot of credit. That's probably the main thing I'll take away from it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up your mom, because that was going to be my next subject. She was not one. I don't know how many interviews she ever did. I mean, in the time that I knew her, maybe we had her on maybe once.
Yeah, and she didn't like it very much.
She wasn't a big camera person and being in front of the camera. But when times are tough, you find out exactly who brings people together. And I guess we didn't say enough about, you knew it, but I don't know if the public knew just how kind of a strong woman she was throughout all this.
Oh, I mean, she, again, a lot like Sean. I mean, he said things to her that when he was drinking that he didn't mean, but it still hurt. And she was very intelligent, and I think when they finally realized he had a problem, she educated herself a great deal about alcoholism, and she loved him dearly, because he was again, like I said, 95% of the time he was an unbelievable father. Same with it being the husband. He adored my mom and loved her so much, but during those times where he drank, he did say some things that obviously really hurt her, but she refused to let his alcoholism destroy our family, and she kept us together. There's no question about it.
I got to ask you this too. We get into some current events and the time we have left, but I guess the team is reported back on campus to be tested, and I don't know anything about the test yet, but that's the first step, to have everybody back, and it won't be long before you can get out there for your 8 hours with them per week, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, July 20th. They can start, July 6th, they can start doing some voluntary work. in the weight rooms and doing some stuff on their own as far as playing pickup games. If everybody, if all the tests come back negative, that is, and then July 20th we get our hands on them, and yeah, it's exciting. I mean, you asked me, I'm not sure when the news broke of the probation, but if you'd asked me that day if we would have our entire class make it to Stillwater by the 1st of July, if I was a betting man, I'd have to bet against that. But it says a lot about Coach Boynton's relationship, how he's recruited those kids and how much they like him and how much they trust him, that they all showed up on campus knowing that there's a chance we may not be able to play for a championship next year. Hopefully this appeal will work, but who knows? I don't think anybody knows. But it says a lot about the relationship that the coach built with those young men.
Last thing, and of course you've been on both sides of this fence. It's better to be on the current side where you have a lot of talent and you've got a lot of possibilities and a lot of options, and that's what you got this year as versus the alternative. But that too presents somewhat of a challenge to a coaching staff, correct? To get all that talent that heretofore might have been more individual than team talent, get them all put together and headed in the right direction at once.
Oh, there's no doubt. Controlling egos and having everybody buy into their specific role, and there's a lot to go into it. And I think last year it showed a little bit that when we had some guys go down and Coach shortened his bench, your chemistry a lot of times is better. Some of my best teams I ever had, we probably only played 7 or 8 guys, and kind of like my dad. My dad never had a long bench spell. But that's something that you'd much rather have a full stable than have 5 or 6 guys like we did a couple of years ago. There's no question, and especially when they're as talented as we believe these young men are.
Well, I can't wait to see it start being put together and get up there. And I think they open the campus for sure on the 8th. I think, unless there's another.
I believe so.
Yeah. So I'll be there, mask in hand, and take my temperature and all this good stuff, and sit in your.
I'm going to kick you out of that practice. I'm going to say, hey, look at that dude. That dude looks like he has a fever. We better get him out of here.
Hey, I'll bring my own thermometer, so I'll make sure that there's no fever going on. But I haven't seen you guys in forever, so I'm really looking forward to when we get back together again. But hey, I appreciate your time, man. And
you bet, TD.
Hang in there, and we'll see you. We'll see you here shortly.
Okay.
Thanks, bud. Thanks. That's Scott Sutton, and some other insight, if you will, some other perspective on the video, and I thought he had some, as a brother, Patrick, he saw and heard the abuse that Sean took, but also his mother, and that had to hurt you as a son. But he also knew, and he was right, because those of us around him, Eddie, 95% of the time he was fine, but when he was drinking, he was very mean to some extent.
I think Scott probably played an extremely important role in also helping keep everything together. I mean, really.
Yeah.
He probably had to shoulder a lot more than he ever thought he would at a younger age too. But no, that family was clearly strengthened and came together in the toughest of times too. And I'm glad that's what Scott, or he kind of brought it up. I hope that it wasn't all people. All they got from this was Eddie's addiction. No, not at all. I think everybody saw, the strength that he really showed in some of the toughest of times. And one of the things that stood out to me that I didn't get to say there to Chris was, he called Sean the best coach he's ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, those words were super impactful.
Sean was a genius offensively.
Yeah.
He was genius. And, they got along well when he was working for his dad. I will say this, though, and as we get ready to wrap it up, I'm glad Scott said what he did because it would be easy to just get hooked on the unbelievable expression that Sean had throughout and some of the negative stuff. But there were so many other things that he did, he being Eddie Sutton, that was brought out in the video as well, that while you tell both sides, maybe the tendency sometimes is to go to the negative and forget the positive. And he meant a lot to a lot of people. So if you get a chance to watch it again, which I hope you do, maybe watch it with that in mind and try to find some of the great things that Eddie did, and maybe not have to concentrate on the addiction.
Absolutely. That's Tom Dirato. Thanks so much, TD, for coming in and discussing. Huge thank you to Chris Hunt coming in and spending a lot of time with us there on the show. He was great, and he really created a fantastic piece of artwork, really is what it was in the film Eddie. And it is on ESPN. Again, for anyone that didn't get to see it, you go back and watch it anytime. That's Tom Dirato. I'm Patrick Wheeler. Thanks to Jason Elmquist, Christopher Hunt, and Scott Sutton all joining the show. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive. We'll be back tomorrow. Same place, same time. See ya.